This is Chuck Curry with Audio One. On the line today, we have a really special guest, someone I certainly admire, Oscar winning director Ron Howard. Notable work in Ron's career, and it's all notable, include A Beautiful Mind, which Ron won an Oscar for Best Director in 2001. Big hits like Cocoon, Backdraft, Parenthood, and Apollo 13. That film, Apollo 13, getting an IMAX release mid September for its 30th anniversary. Ron's currently doing the rounds. He's proudly promoting the release in theaters of his newest directorial effort. It's titled Eden, which hits theaters this Friday, August 22nd. Welcome to the program, Ron. Pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to talk to you.
You got it. Now, I've read from different people who would say Eden feels like a big change of pace in what Ron Howard's done before in directing movies. But if you look at your film bio, it really isn't because you've done so much diverse work. I mean, Apollo 13, Far and Away, The Paper, movies like that are all very different. So what motivated you? What went off in your head? What light went off your head to say, I'm going to commit 1 or 2 years of my life directing and cultivating this movie, Eden, and give the audience a general synopsis what this movie is about.
Sure. Well, it's a true crime thriller, something I've never actually done that particular thing. It really happened. So the twists and turns, they aren't necessarily the way you'd write them if you sat down to, conjure up a whodunit or a TV thriller. It's life. And so it makes the twists and turns all a little more sharper, a little sharper and a little more surprising because of that. Also, the characters. This took place in the early 1930s on one of the smallest islands in the Galapagos, Floriana. It was the last one that to be inhabited, and these three different groups went to this island because they wanted to get away from civilization, not together, but separately. These little groups, family units, went there to try to redefine themselves, to just try to get off the grid and do it over and try to do it better. Well, it's this fascinating study because it didn't go very well. It ended very violently and tragically for some, triumphantly for others. But as I said, lots of twists and turns along the way. This was like 15 years ago. So I've been nursing this story on for a long time, for a long time. It was about 4 years ago that Noah Pink wrote the script that we're working on from spec. So this whole thing has been a labor of love. It's not a studio movie. It's not studio paychecks. It's all people pulling together just because this story was so strange and and
Uh,
and so unusual and fun and emotional and smart that we all just wanted to roll up our sleeves and do it. And what a great cast I was able to pull together to play these characters.
Now, you do have a great cast: Judd Law, Anna de Armas, Vanessa Kirby, Sydney Sweeney, and more. How involved are you in the casting process? And how important is that for you personally with all the years of experience you have producing and directing?
Totally involved. And casting and script is kind of the whole ball game. I mean, you have to go out there and make smart choices, about the camera work and the editing and the staging and sort of the cinema of it, sure. But if the script and the casting doesn't click, it's really an uphill struggle to get something that audiences are really going to remember, and that's always the goal. Come up with something that will cut through the clutter. In this case, I needed actors who were very courageous. I've got to just say something about Ana de Armas because I don't know if your listeners know. Behind you, you've got this fantastic mural, including Marilyn Monroe. And
Right.
Ana de Armas did such an amazing job playing Marilyn. Anna's Cuban. English isn't even her first language, and yet she pulled off Marilyn Monroe. And this Baroness character that she played required such creative courage and imagination, along with her charisma and sex appeal and talent. So, I'm really proud of what Anna did. Jude Law is remarkable. He and Vanessa Kirby created this great on-screen chemistry and relationship that's weird and sexy and funny and unexpected and ultimately very intense. I'm so proud of them. And Sydney Sweeney is a real force. She's I don't know that I've seen. She's right up there in terms of work ethic with anyone that I've ever worked with.
I got another question for you. Again, on the line with Ron Howard, directing his new film that he directs. Eden comes out in theaters this Friday. In terms of you've been at this game for a very long time. I'm certainly a fan. Your work is certainly diverse, and you're a major part of pop culture. In terms of storytelling, just storytelling, from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, do you look at the industry different when you try to tell a story on film, telling the story and the audience you're telling it to? Is it different in 2025 for you than it would have been when you helmed some of your work in the 80s and 90s?
Sure. There are some differences, but they're pretty subtle.
Hmm.
And it has a lot to do with taste. YouTube and now TikTok and the sort of globalization of entertainment through Netflix uh,
Right.
really changed
Attention span also, correct?
attention span, but also intelligence. Audiences are smarter now than they've ever been. Like,
Hmm.
for example, the previous film was a movie called 13 Lives. It's
Good
on
movie.
Amazon Prime. I was really proud of it. When I went to the test screening for that movie with audiences, which I always do because I want to understand how audiences are reacting to a film, what they're confused by, what they like the most, what if there are any problems. So we went to this test screening, and I thought, oh my God, the first 8 minutes of this movie it's all in Thai. It's all subtitled. We're going in, this is, in Orange County, California. People don't want to read subtitles. This movie will not test well. Well, it was the highest testing movie I ever did, including Apollo 13 and Cinderella Man and movies like that. And and people loved the subtitles. Why? Because of Squid Game. Because
Wow,
because they've learned that there's real value in seeing actors work in their authentic language in a way. And so audiences are shifting and changing in ways that I think is exciting and really liberating. I also would never have made Eden uh, 10, 15 years ago. When I first thought of the idea, it was like a dream. I'd love to make a movie like this, but I'm not sure audiences are sophisticated enough to follow these twists and turns, which are dark and edgy. And as time went on, I began to see audiences responding to shows like White Lotus and
right, right.
love and really responding well. And it just made me believe that there would be an appetite now for this kind of story. So in a way, it's emboldened me and people like me to take some more chances, which is important. And it's great that we're being released wide in theaters, because
That's great.
I really hope audiences get a chance to sort of let this movie take them to the Galapagos. We really tried to recreate that environment in a cool way and go on this ride with these characters.
I got one question for you here about your career in general. Again, on the line with Ron Howard, promoting Eden in theaters August 22nd, this Friday. In 1976, you co-star in the movie The Shootist, opposite John Wayne, John Wayne's last film. Lauren Bacall plays your mother. To me, it's one of my personal favorite films of all time. Last 20 minutes of that film, there's a scene in that movie where John Wayne comes down and he sees Lauren Bacall's character, who's your mother, for the very last time. And she says to him, "Goodbye, Mr. Books." And he says to her, uh, goodbye, Mr. Rogers. To me, that is the brilliance of simple dialogue and how powerful two lines of dialogue could pay off in a film. My question to you is, do you think the industry has gotten too reliant on concept and not focusing on scripting and character payoff in the last act as it did, I think, in the 70s and 80s?
It's a really interesting point, and if so, not intentionally. Uh,
Hmm.
but one thing is that we are seeing so many films, so many TV shows working, at the same time. There is this sort of flood, this kind of glut of storytelling, and it's tougher than ever to get an idea to land. And sometimes, you might not trust the audience. It's one of the reasons why I like to do a lot of audience screenings, because I do like to know how much or how little do we need for an idea to come across. But I will just say that was an extraordinary screenplay. Don Siegel was a world-class filmmaker. Uh,
Yes.
and, and John Wayne was trained by John Ford, and he gave me one piece of advice. He said,
Always.
here's what Ford taught me about emotional scenes. He said, on the big screen, you don't want to go and commit 100% to the emotion. You only go about 80% because you want the audience to finish the feeling themselves. So that's that restraint, and that you're kind of talking about fewer words, simpler performance levels, and let the audience sort of go on the journey and complete the idea with you. So I learned a lot of valuable lessons from people like John Wayne and Henry Fonda, who I acted with in a television series, and Betty Davis, who I directed, and many other of the Hollywood greats that I had a chance to work with as a younger guy.
Two more questions. I'll let you go on. Again, on the line with Ron Howard promoting Eden, his new film he directed, comes in theaters this Friday, August 22nd. I've interviewed different directors and I've interviewed different authors. I just interviewed an author, right? He wrote a book, an extensive book on the life of Clint Eastwood, 528 pages. And one of the things different directors do, Eastwood's style was sort of one take, keep it fresh, move it along. And then you got guys like Stanley Kubrick, right, who'll do 50 or 100 takes, which sort of frustrates actors. What's your opinion on different styles of getting performance out of actors, keeping it fresh but making it good?
Well, that's what's one of the fascinating things about this job. It's a leadership role, right? And your main job is to maximize the potential of a story, starting with the screenplay but going much further because screenplay, it's not gospel. The actor's going to bring something. The weather might change when you're filming. An audience might tell you that they're confused by something, and in post production, you need to find a way to fix that and work on it. New ideas will emerge. That's all very exciting. Working with actors I mean, again, it's what drew me to want to make Eden. Five totally different kinds of characters, five high-powered actors, in their prime. I knew the styles were going to be different. I knew that that's my job, is to try to understand what each actor needs, and try not to make them adapt to my approach, but try to create an environment where we as much as possible we nourish them, and so that they can really flourish. And I learned that early on. Some actors do really well with just a few takes, and they burn out.
Right.
A guy like Jim Carrey
Mhm.
on The Grinch, he needed 20 takes. He demanded at least 20 takes because he wanted to keep experimenting. He wanted to keep pushing himself. So that's not everybody. It's true. Eastwood has a style, and when actors come on, they know what that rhythm is going to be. I don't have a set style. My
Okay.
my journey is to try to understand what I think is going to maximize the actor's ability to really give the audience something special.